I've been thinking about this interview, where film critic Roger Ebert talks to animator Hayao Miyazaki about the concept of intentional emptiness. I told Miyazaki I love the gratuitous motion in his films. Instead of every movement being dictated by the story, sometimes people will just sit for a moment, or they will sigh, or look in a running stream, or do something extra. Not to advance the story, but only to give the sense of time and place and who they are. We have a word for that in Japanese, he said. It's called ma, emptiness. It's there intentionally. Is that like the pillow words that separate phrases in Japanese poetry? I don't think it's like the pillow word. He clapped his hands 3 or 4 times. The time in between my clapping is ma. If you just have non-stop action with no breathing space at all, it's just busyness. But if you take a moment, then the tension building in the film can grow into a wider dimension. If you just have constant tension at 80 degrees all the time, you just get numb. I've heard this concept discussed often in the film world, but not so much in the realm of fiction, even though the written form provides authors ample opportunities to settle into quiet moments. In my own writing, I'm often tempted to rush along a scene, to have back-to-back action and dialogue, in fear of boring the reader if I pause the roller coaster for too long. I realize, though, what is lost in that constant motion, that breathing space that Miyazaki talks about, not only in terms of tension, but also in deepening readers' connection to the characters, and providing moments of real humanity. I define a quiet moment as a scene that's not designed to move the plot forward. Rather, it resists the urge to serve a specific purpose, beyond simply existing. Like breathing or emptiness, it is a fact of life, and not something that needs to justify its presence in a story. This meaningful pause may reveal something about the character, certainly, in that it's a moment where the character can live with sincerity, without masking what they're thinking and feeling. These moments can show us the depth of a character's uncertainty or joy or pain or worldview, but really that revelation is made through the reader's interpretation. The quiet moment is there to be felt, rather than to be fully understood. I never would have imagined that cucumbers could move me emotionally, but it happened, thanks to Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. This is a novel about a young man named Toru, a college student with a complicated love life, to say the least. In one scene, he volunteers to watch his friend Midori's father at the hospital. He has never met this man before, but they bond over cucumbers.
"I'm going to eat some cucumber if you don't mind," I said to Midori's father. He didn't answer. I washed 3 cucumbers in the sink and dribbled a little soy sauce into a dish. Then I wrapped a cucumber in nori, dipped it in soy sauce, and gobbled it down. Great," I said to Midori's father. "Fresh, simple, smells like life. Really good cucumbers, far more sensible food than kiwi fruit." I polished off 1 cucumber and attacked the next. The sick room echoed with the lilt of cucumbers crunching. Only after finishing the second whole cucumber was I ready to take a break. I boiled some water on the gas burner in the hall and made myself some tea. "Would you like something to drink? Water? Juice?" I asked Midori's father. "Cucumber," he said. "Great," I said with a smile. "With nori?" He gave a little nod. I cranked up the bed again. Then I cut a bite-sized piece of cucumber, wrapped it with a strip of nori, stabbed the combination with a toothpick, dipped it into the soy sauce, and delivered it to the patient's waiting mouth. With almost no change of expression, Midori's father crunched down on the piece again and again, and finally swallowed it. "How was that? Good, huh?" "Good," he said. "It's good when food tastes good," I said. "It's kind of like proof you're alive."
The power in that moment comes later, when the following week, Midori's father dies before Toru can visit another time. Toru reflects, "I still have a vivid memory of the tiny crunching he made when he chewed his pieces of cucumber. People leave strange little memories of themselves behind when they die." That scene stuck with me for weeks because it felt real and raw and humbling, Yet all of that emotion stemmed from such a seemingly insignificant interaction that comes to mean everything. Many of the most memorable moments from stories and from life are ones like these. Moments of connection, of curiosity, of discontent, of longing. The narrator connects the idea of sharing food as a reminder of being alive, and the recognition that we share this aliveness with others, even people we barely know. It's like that famous quote, "Enjoy the little things in life, because one day you'll look back and realize they were the big things." I want to share a few other passages that feel like Ma to me. I hope they inspire you to embed similar moments into your own stories to create realism and depth. The things that fascinate us can reveal a lot about who we are. Even in a novel packed with existential dread and danger, like Jeff VanderMeer's Annihilation, there's space for moments of revelatory calm. In this sure-to-be sci-fi classic, a group of researchers embarks on an expedition to explore Area X, a terrain overwhelmed by strange natural wonders. One of the moments I felt closest to the narrator, who's simply referred to as the biologist, is when she pauses in her recounting of their descent into an otherworldly tower to describe her childhood. She says, "My lodestone, the place I always thought of when people asked me why I became a biologist, was the overgrown swimming pool in the backyard of the rented house where I grew up." The biologist describes her relationship to the pool over time.
Soon after we moved in, the grass around its edges grew long. Sedgeweeds and other towering plants became prevalent. The short bushes lining the fence around the pool lunged up to obscure the chain link. Moss grew in the cracks in the tile path that circled it. The water level slowly rose, fed by the rain, and the surface became more and more brackish with algae. Dragonflies continually scouted the area. Bullfrogs moved in, the wriggling, malformed dots of their tadpoles always present. Water gliders and aquatic beetles began to make the place their own. Rather than get rid of my 30-gallon freshwater aquarium, as my parents wanted, I dumped the fish into the pool, and some survived the shock of that. Local birds, like herons and egrets, began to appear, drawn by the frogs and fish and insects. By some miracle, too, small turtles began to live in the pool, although I had no idea how they had gotten there. Within months of our arrival, the pool had become a functioning ecosystem. I would slowly enter through the creaking wooden gate and observe it all from a rusty lawn chair I had set up in a far corner. Despite a strong and well-founded fear of drowning, I had always loved being around bodies of water. Inside the house, my parents did whatever banal, messy things people in the human world usually did, some of it loudly. But I could easily lose myself in the micro-world of the pool.
The pool becomes her escape from her parents, who don't understand her, from the school bullies, from any need to interact with other people. When her family is forced to move, she says one of the great traumas of her life was worrying about the pool, and she wonders, would the new owners see the beauty and the importance of leaving it as is? Or would they destroy it, create unthinking slaughter in honor of the pool's real function? Though some might see the act of observing wildlife in a pool as inconsequential compared to navigating an alien landscape, this interaction has a profound effect on the biologist. Observing the pool feels like a cure for loneliness to someone who is emotionally distant from her parents and an outcast among her peers. She talks about how painful it is to return to a place, knowing it might have been destroyed. There are certain kinds of deaths that one should not be expected to relive, certain kinds of connections so deep that when they are broken, you feel the snap of the link inside you. This flashback serves as a break from the story's dramatic tension, and when we return to the present scene, we do so with a better understanding of what drives the biologist. Years later, the biologist becomes similarly fascinated by a puddle ecosystem in an empty lot near her house. Wild places are her lodestone, and her quiet curiosity is what grounds her. Sometimes quiet moments are only experienced internally, rather than having an outward manifestation in the scene. That's the magic of fiction, where we could convey a character's interiority in ways that other mediums can't. Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan is a novel composed of quiet moments. Set in a small Irish town in the winter of 1985, the story centers on Bill Furlong, a man who provides for his wife and children as a coal merchant. When he visits the neighbor's house for help with an icy padlock, he observes her figure for a moment. He lets himself fantasize about a different version of his life.
He stood for a moment, taking in the peace of that plain room, letting a part of his mind turn loose to stray off and imagine what it might be like to live there, in that house with her as his wife. Of late, he was inclined to imagine another life elsewhere, and wondered if this was not something in his blood. Might his own father not have been one of those who had upped suddenly and taken the boat for England? It seemed both proper and at the same time deeply unfair that so much of life was left to chance.
Yet in the interaction with the woman that follows, he doesn't give in to temptation, even when he's given an opportunity to spend more time with her.
"Did you manage?" she asked, taking the kettle. "Aye," Furlong said, feeling the cold of her hand in the exchange. "Many thanks. Will you take a cup of tea?" "There's nothing I'd rather," he said, "but I have to get on. It won't take but a few minutes to boil it up again. I'm near late as it is, but I'll get one of the men to leave over a bag of logs for ye." "Ah, there's no need." "Happy Christmas," he said, and turned away. "And the same to you," she called out after him.
His fantasy of another life remains a passing thought, and the neighbor is not otherwise part of the plot. He remains loyal to his wife and his professional responsibilities, and staying on that moral path perhaps informs his choices at the end of the novel. As is often the case for all of us, it's not usually the high-stakes, dramatic choices that define us, but rather the ordinary, fleeting decisions we make every day. Because of Furlong's later thoughts, we also get the sense that this daydream is merely a symptom of his larger dissatisfaction about the meaning of his life. When confronted with another door that's been frozen shut, he extrapolates that small experience into a larger reflection of his life. And he had to ask himself if he had not turned into a man consigned to doorways, or did he not spend the best part of his life standing outside of one or another, waiting for them to be opened. Quiet moments can even appear in novels that take a more distant approach and don't reveal much about the character's inner workings. A sudden exploration of an emotion in an otherwise understated story can lend that moment all the more weight. Such epiphanies can be sparked by the smallest of embers, as happens in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold by John le Carré. This Cold War spy novel stars the jaded Alec Leamis, a British intelligence officer who falls in love with a young woman named Liz, while carrying out the most high-stakes operation of his career. His emotions can be hard to read, as he's stoic even in private. What he loves and what he fears remain hidden, except for in tiny bursts of feeling. While waiting for an important message, Leamis decides to go for a walk and stare dully at the sea.
There was a girl standing on the beach throwing bread to the seagulls. Her back was turned to him. The sea wind played with her long black hair and pulled at her coat, making an arc of her body like a bow strung towards the sea. He knew what it was then that Liz had given him, the thing that he would have to go back and find if he ever got home to England. It was the caring about little things, the faith in ordinary life, the simplicity that made you break up a bit of bread into a paper bag, walk down to the beach, and throw it to the gulls. It was this respect for triviality which he had never been allowed to possess, Whether it was bread for the seagulls or love, whatever it was, he would go back and find it. He would make Liz find it for him. A week, 2 weeks perhaps, and he would be home. Control had said he could keep whatever they paid, and that would be enough. With £15,000, a gratuity, and a pension from the circus, a man, as Control would say, can afford to come in from the cold.
This moment is a rare glimpse into Lemus's psyche. It captures the central tension of the novel between his longing to return to a normal life and his inability to escape his commitment to espionage. It shows what Lemus stands to lose if this operation goes wrong. Whether it's a dialogue interaction between characters, detailed descriptions of a place that's important to the protagonist, or a glimpse into someone's inner life, quiet moments reveal truths about the human experience. All my examples are quieter stories in general, but I truly believe that every story would benefit from having one scene of Ma. What these moments have in common is that they are rooted in character, so tap into their thoughts and feelings, hopes and fears for just a few pages, and let yourself and the reader sit with that knowledge. It may well be the moment readers most remember after finishing the last page. You could start with one of these 4 prompts. Moment of connection. Have 2 characters talk who might not otherwise interact, but have them talk about something that has nothing to do with the main plot. What do they find they have in common? Moment of curiosity. What makes your character curious? Let them talk and explore that curiosity for a few pages and see what's uncovered. Moment of discontent. Think about what's bothering your main character. How does that anxiety or annoyance manifest in their interactions with the people and world around them in small ways? Moment of longing. Why does your character want what they want? Write the moment they realize this while observing something seemingly unrelated. I've wondered, if my life were a book, where would you witness Ma? I think it would be in the snapshot memory I hold from over a decade ago, riding a ski lift alone at night, sitting there with my legs dangling over the white slopes and, above me, the full moon shining brighter than any snow. And it almost feels like I'm being pulled toward the moon, like I'm at last present in myself, a small wonder in the largeness of the world. What is a quiet moment from your life? Share your story in the comments. Whatever you do, keep writing.